We'll be underway in just a couple seconds, folks. Here, we're just waiting on the finance director. All right. Good evening, everyone. With a quorum of members present and the posted time having arrived, I'll call the Finance Committee meeting for Tuesday, October 27th to order. The first item on our agenda is to approve a whole lot of minutes. We have the minutes of 7/6/2020, 9/8/2020, 9/22, and 10/13 of 2020. Any revisions to those minutes necessary? If not, then I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Herbst. Is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you. And I think with 2 members on WebEx tonight, I think we'll roll call vote just to make sure we have a response from everybody. So just to make sure we're all included. Item number 2 on our agenda is discussion and possible action approving 2020 room tax grant payments to continuing appropriation recipients. You'll recall that within the amount of room tax that the city retains annually, we do have some groups that are earmarked for continuing appropriations. Those allocations are handled by the Finance Committee versus the Room Tax Commission that handles a different volume of the room tax funds. That said, for 2020, it's certainly possible that we won't exceed the amount of room tax collection beyond what the city is allowed to retain. The continuing appropriations entities, though, receive their funding from that portion that we retain. And you'll see a couple of ideas in your packets from Mary Ann. The requests are listed on the summary there, and she's got 2 possible scenarios. We could, at this point, obviously the year isn't out, so what you see on her report for October, November, and December are estimates. We have the option before us to either fund those requests at 100% right now, and then if her projections fall short, we would then just not have the same volume that we expected to contribute to the general fund. The other option, according to the memo, is to fund the continuing appropriations at 75% now and the remainder at year end. And so either of those options are available. We have received one statement of public comment, and that was an email in advance of the meeting from Lindsay Lewitzky at Wasa Events as their acting interim director. She says, thank you for considering funds for continuing appropriations recipients for 2020. They understand the challenging times and circumstances. She will be online tonight, which we do have her on WebEx, and they certainly would appreciate any funding that we can forward to those continuing appropriations entities based on the shortfalls that they've already experienced with COVID-19 slowdowns. Mary Ann, do you have anything else that you wanted to walk us through on those dollars?
Nope. That's it. Just that I pointed out that the Wasa Concert Band had reached out to me and said that they, didn't perform in 2020, so they had no expenses in 2020. So that would be one organization that wouldn't be counting on any funding for the year. So in my list, I included them. So it would be just about $200,000 because their allocation was $6,832.
Okay, so then we would remove theirs and
Yes.
then look to earmark the rest.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, committee? Do you want to fund it in full right now, or do you want to start with 75 and then see where we're at a little closer to the end of the year? Dawn?
I would like to see you disperse 75% of the allocation now and balance the year end.
Okay. And Sarah Watson also has her hand up. Go ahead, Sarah.
I had a question about the September. Is it still an estimate?
Yes, it is, because the September isn't due until October 31st. So there's always a 1-month delay of when we collect.
Okay.
Mike, go ahead.
And refresh my memory, what is our retention amount for this year? Is it 404 or 430 or?
Yep, 431,973.
Okay. So it looks like you're guesstimating that we'll probably hit that retention mark?
I am.
Okay.
Barely. We won't have much or any, though, for the commission, it looks like. Does Deb also have a hand up? Go ahead, Deb.
But I guess I'd like to hear more from each organization about how they were affected, were their hours reduced? I guess I'm not exactly sure, but it just seems that we may want to give more consideration for those that did stay open compared to those that were closed. So I was hoping for an update from each organization.
Okay. We do have some of the continuing appropriations entities on with us this evening, but not all of them. Obviously, when they call in on WebEx, they're all muted, so we'll have to unmute them if they're able to give just a brief update on the status of their organization and, the effects. I mean, either way, looks like expect to receive 100% of their funding, but with the 75% plan, the final quarter of it would be held up for year end. I guess if we can maybe just circle back with a few of our continuing appropriations entities and just see if they'd be willing to offer just a brief comment as to the status of the organization and the need for the funding. I see Kathy Foley is on with us. Kathy, could you offer just a little bit of insight on behalf of the museum?
Happy to, Lisa. Thank you so much. Well, the Woodson Art Museum closed initially on March 16th, reopened on June 16th, and we did that in keeping with the governor's safer at home order and to keep our staff and volunteers and visitors safe. Do our part to reduce the spread. We reopened on the 16th. We've been open through the summer and into the early fall. We made the decision earlier this month to close again as of October 9th because we thought the gathering, despite the social distancing of art, the mask requirement, and hand sanitizing. However, we continue to provide services throughout the community as well as virtually. We delivered today 200 art kits to Aspirus for their use with frontline healthcare workers as part of a program to ensure well care for frontline healthcare workers and their families. We've made these kits available to Head Start as well and to regional art educators. This is during this closed period. We continue to add robust content to our website, artist voices videos, activity guides, and webinar links on different topics. And we continue to blog weekly with great response. So our goal is to reopen as soon as we feel it is safe and appropriate to do so. One last decision that was announced this week is that our flagship exhibition, Birds in Art, is going to be extended through Sunday, February 21st, 2021. The winter exhibition that had been scheduled has been rescheduled for December, January, February 2022, 2023. And the feedback that we've had in sharing this information first with those individuals and households and corporations that support the museum has been tremendously positive. So that's in a nutshell where we stand.
Okay. We circle in with Amy. I see Amy Beck is on. Amy, could you give us just a little update?
Yes, I would echo Kathy's sentiments. I know certainly throughout the entire time that we were open, those who did come through the doors, often traveling, were very enthusiastic and appreciative. of what we're doing, and certainly that's been the case. Nothing but supportive comments about the proactive decision to close on
Sure.
October 9th. And people are understanding and supportive of that. We're grateful for sort of the accumulated goodwill. And truly, I think as far expenses go on, the beauty of the Woodson Art Museum for visitors and travelers is we're committed to always free admission. So, that's the case whether you walk through the doors or access virtual content, and certain, staff is continuing to come into the museum and work, and so the expenses continue. But we are thrilled to be able to do what we can in the ways that Kathy outlined.
Okay, thank you for that. I see we also have Sean in the audience in the chamber from PAF. Sean, if you'd like to come up and give just a little quick update on what's happening at Performing Arts. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. As much like every other concert venue in North America and frankly the world, we've been closed because indoor venues aren't suitable for gatherings at this point. But we've not been, I put it this way, we've been dark, our theater's been dark, we haven't been closed. We've done over 80 what I call pivoted programming, everything from, we were the first venue in Wisconsin to launch an outdoor series, which we did this summer at numerous local businesses. We are the first one to create a virtual series of weekly shows free of charge. And just this week, we provided our first shows directly to schools and educators for them to provide that type of school programming that they normally would get coming to the grant. So, we've done, as I said, almost 80 of those programs. We, even if it was safe for us to reopen, the touring business is essentially shut down across the world. And so, we're pivoting our programming, we're living our mission. Our theater is 90 plus years old and still requires a lot of upkeep just to keep the lights on. So, we're doing the best we can to completely reinvent ourselves until it's the right time to be back in our space.
Excellent. Thank you for that. It looks like we also have Kelly from CVA.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak. The Center for the Visual Arts, similar to other organizations here in town, we did close down in mid-March, and we reopened in mid-June along the lines of the governor's order. Since that time, we have decided that we are going to stay open because of our limited staff. We are able to implement a safety procedure that allows staff to be in the building separated from one another, and we do have a rotating basis of allowing staff to work from home and then be in the galleries at different times. But while we were shut down, the CVA was able to give out over 1,700 community art kits to groups like the Women's Community, Neighbors Place, Community Connections, a number of different frontline groups. We were also able to offer 10 different summer camps during this time to help with the shortfall of daycare in our community. We have over 150 contributing artists that have still been able to market their artwork at our gift shop, have been able to display their artwork in our galleries. And we were also able to offer over 30 classes, making sure that our instructors did not go without being able to give visual arts education in our community. I do have to admit that with attendance, we have seen a 75% drop in people coming into our galleries. The same thing with people purchasing artwork because they've not been able to come into the galleries. And we've also seen a significant drop in people that have been coming to classes. So receiving this funding is critical for us. It's something that I would really encourage you guys to please distribute to us at this time. Okay. We still want to be able to provide visual art education for our community.
Okay, thank you for that. It looks like we also have Mary Forer on from the Historical Society. Mary, could you offer a little insight?
Oh, yes, thank you. Like everyone else who's speaking, the Historical Society is closed to the public. However, our staff remains fully working our full hours. So like everyone else, we're providing virtual content.
Okay, thank you. We'll circle back with Lindsay Lewitzky from Wasa Events.
Yes, thank you. So obviously we weren't able to do our summer events. The because of the volume of people that we normally bring in through those events. So we weren't able to generate any revenue via that. We were able to do a socially distanced Harvest Fest, and we are planning on a different reverse type holiday parade. Obviously, as everyone stated, so we obviously have operating costs. And I think for this year especially, it would help with that shortfall that we're all seeing across the board to shore up those operating costs and help that negative number look a little less so that we are able to continue into 2021 and beyond.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we've turned through most of them on the list. Is that update sufficient, Deb? Oh, hang on, we have to unmute you. There you go. Go ahead, Deb. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Deb. Oh, I see your hand.
Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. With that then, committee members, do we have a motion to accept one option or the other? Either 75% with 25% at the end or 100% of the funding dispensed right away? Dawn, go ahead.
I'm making that motion for 75% of the allocation now and the balance at year end.
Okay, we have a motion from Herbst for 75% now with 25% at year end. Is there a second for Dawn's motion?
I would second that.
Okay, second by Watson. Further discussion or comment? Oh, go ahead, Deb.
Okay. I was just going to say, if the band did not, the city band did not do any expenditures, well then, if you could take that off
Yep,
from the distribution.
we've got them removed, and then we'll hold that with the non-dispensed funding. Okay?
Okay.
All right. With
That's
that,
fine
then
with
we'll-
me. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. We'll take a roll call vote then. Martins?
Aye.
Ryan? Okay, go ahead. Sarah?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. That item passes. Let me get back to the agenda quickly here. Item number 3, we're going to pull from the agenda tonight. That item is actually not ready for final action by the Finance Committee. They are still, the Community Development Department is still, Economic Development Department is still working with West Side Warehousing of Wasa on a couple components of their real estate deal. So we're going to hold that item over for November 10th. By then, they'll have things worked out, so we'll pull item 3. Item number 4 is discussion and possible action approving Cherry Tree Dental Development Agreement from Tax Increment District number 12. This item actually comes to us with a recommendation from the Economic Development Committee, who went back and forth for a couple months with Cherry Tree on everything from land use to aesthetics, and they then brought that committee back a redesigned and revised proposal, and that committee approved the agreement based on the fact that all of the things that they were concerned about in the components of the deal, it appeared, had been addressed. I see that we don't have the minutes yet of that meeting, but that was the gist of the outcome from ED. Committee members, any questions on this particular item as it's shown in the packets? Okay, go ahead, Deb.
Okay, we can hear you, so go ahead.
You're good.
All right. Well, I was just going to say, it happens, my dentist is on the west side, Dr. Berjar, and that Mr. Giorgi's development had planned on that new off of Stewart Avenue and the bypass Stewart Avenue, the new dental thing, and I was not sure if there was any request for that, use of TID funding for that. Cherry Tree actually is the top of the umbrella that owns and is running both the west side as well as what's planned on the east side. So if there isn't any TID funding on the west, I don't see why there should be on the east.
Okay. We had asked that question of the developer in economic development about that Stewart Avenue development, which was already done, and they did not have an ask for that site at all. So they're just looking for assistance with the site prep, which is similar to the request for the site challenges that they had along the riverfront with other developments that have taken place down there, but it didn't sound like any of this was to go to that Stewart Avenue project. That looked like it was totally separate. I don't know if,
I would add for clarification that the Stewart Avenue site did receive site assistance from the city, though, you know, that back in, was it 2007 or 8? And that would have been
In
to.
TID 7?
Yes.
Okay.
To Chuck Gadorsey for, if you recall, when the state was done with the interchange there was massive quantities of excess soil, and there was quite a bit of underground utilities that needed to be installed. And it wasn't just for the Surgical Associates facility, but it covered that site as well as where Ears, Nose, and Throat and Quick Trip are today.
yep, and
So
I think
that
we did
total
some
development
median work
agreement
there
was-
also for
yeah.
access.
Yeah, it was $1,035,000 in total.
Okay,
But that took place,
Separate,
a
though.
number of
Okay.
years ago.
all right. Committee Sure. Committee members, any additional questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the development agreement as proposed? Oh, Deb, go ahead.
I was just going to say I've been going to Dr. Bearjar since I moved here back in 1998. So he was in the professional building that is across the street from 2510, and that they just moved in the last week or so to this new Gadorsey building that's behind, and the backside is looking at the Stewart Avenue Parkway. So I would prefer to have more detailed information on that to see, because again, from what my understanding is, Cherry Tree is the top of the umbrella, that both the east and the west side are really under their management.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we have Jack Young on with us?
I wish I could change it, I don't know how to do it.
Okay. Could you offer some insight on that? Could you offer some insight on that as far as Cherry Tree and where its management structure rests with this project versus the Stewart Avenue?
Absolutely, happy to. Guys, my name is Jack Young. We started Cherry Tree back in 2005. We've been working with Dr. Bearjar since 2008. 2010. Dr. Bearjar and I have had a long partnership together with this practice as Dr. Cole, and those are the two practices that are relocating to the location that Ms. Ryan has just referenced. I just want to be clear that we are not an owner of that Gadorsey project. We're a tenant. We're a tenant in that project. So, it's a very different situation than what we're pursuing and contemplating on the riverfront property that we're the subject for today.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Any additional questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the agreement? Motion by Martins, is there a second? Is there a second to approve the project?
I would second.
Okay, second by Watson. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll roll call vote. Ryan? Ryan is voting no. Watson?
Yes.
Herbst? No. Martins?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. And let the record show that has passed 3-2. Item number 5 on our agenda is discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of the Better Bin Recycling app subscription for $8,243. A number of you might recall that just over a year or so ago, we were visited by the creator of the Better Bin Recycling app, and they had done a recycling audit of a number of containers in the city to find out, how clean or not and how efficient our recycling and trash process is, and really to audit a few containers and find out if the right stuff is in them or not. And they were in the process of developing an app that residents can use to scan an item and determine if it's recyclable or not, and it would help people get things in the right container. We've got some information on that in the packets as well. Does anyone have questions on that item? Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, I don't know, is the developer here today or
Yes.
not?
Yep,
Okay.
we have her right up front. If you want to come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Sure, yes, thank you. Michelle Gage, 2260 Bonnie Doon Drive, Cronin, Waterloo.
Okay, yeah, I know, was it a year or so ago, you did present this to the council, for the study. Weston has been using this app for a while, hasn't it?
So we just relaunched about 2 months ago in Weston.
Okay. Okay, because I was wondering if there was any kind of feedback, or if it has improved, the recycling compliance in other communities, or.
Right,
or
I think
not
it's just, I'm so sorry, it's a little bit too new to have
Okay.
good data for you, but I apologize. We've had great comments on the Nextdoor app. I know a lot of residents in Wasa also use that, so we've had a lot of feedback just from general residents, and probably about 100 residents have contacted us to make sure that they were using the app correctly and that they were finding the right products to recycle. So they've been engaged at the
Okay.
very least.
Because I know, it's when we recycle, you used to throw every plastic in the bin, and then you find out, listening to the news or whatnot, recyclers don't want these other numbers because there's no market for them. So something like this is really fascinating, and I think I could see how it would, in the long run, provide us with a more, I guess, financially viable product with the recycling that the community is producing.
Yeah, you nailed it with the financial viability of the program. So there's two really important reasons why the city of Wausau should want to consider. So number one, as a responsible unit, you're mandated by the state of Wisconsin to do education and outreach to residents about recycling right. So it's kind of like your duty. But two, recycling wrong costs you money, generally speaking, in the long run. So we're hoping that in the long run, you can keep your contract costs low with your recycling hauler in the future. So we would really appreciate you considering.
And it's just as simple as scanning the UPC on the product then?
Yep, or text
Okay.
searching, whether you have Kellogg's cornflakes or,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And it looks like the staff recommendation in the memo is to approve the expense on a one-year trial. Okay, let's recognize Sarah Watson first and then Deb. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry about that. I was wondering, it looks like the subscription's based on households, right? And it would be just generalized based on the 16,487 households, regardless of usage. So it would just be one flat subscription fee.
Yes, that's right. And to be honest, we have Rocket Industrial who's actually supplementing the subscription cost as a sponsor. So we do have other stakeholders in the city who are willing to pitch in to make this work.
And so after that first year audit, like if that the subsidy didn't continue, what would that fee increase to? Do you know?
It would not, we would not ever increase, no. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, no.
And
It
then
remains the same.
also, is it an app or is it a website?
It's an app. It's a web
Is it?
app if you want to be really technical. So there's a difference between the type of app that you download on the App Store or Google Play, or that you can just access via the web. So it is technically a PWA, a progressive web app.
Okay. So it wouldn't be like, we wouldn't have to worry about compatibility with like Apple or Android or anything like that.
No, that's kind of one of the awesome parts is for even the tech lay people, you don't have to download anything. It's just like you're going to a website, but it looks like an app on your phone.
So even people who don't have like good smartphones could still access it via their computers.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, those are my questions.
We'll recognize Deb Ryan. Go ahead.
Way to make sure it's only residents from Wasa?
Right, so the way we've built the technology is you sort of have your own unique app. And I could get more technical, but yes, this is a portal that's specific to Wasa. It's specific to harders and the guidelines that they're receiving from the processor that they take the materials to. So we work with all those stakeholders to make sure the residents are getting the right information.
For in Wausau, I'm not sure if you're basing it on the zip code, but the 54401 is also the same zip code that's shared by Rib Mountain, which is another municipality. So are you able to differentiate?
We are able to differentiate, yes. Mm-hmm.
To me, I guess I've dealt with other software where there's an annual license fee. To me, it seems a little high, but I do think it's worth a trial. But in the long run, it would be nice if it was a lower price and for the number of households. I guess, are you going to be able to track how many are using it?
Absolutely. So we'll be able to track a whole bunch of different analytics. But in addition, the license fee includes a lot of support from us to Marianne and as the recycling coordinator to help do social media outreach, Nextdoor app content. We provide a full content calendar of information to keep residents engaged about the topic and using the app. So it's more than just one, hey, you have an app. It's, hey, you have us supporting you in your education and outreach for the whole year.
Okay, well, I think it's worth the 1 year, and then we'll see how many people are using it, but I do like that you're doing outreach to Nextdoor. We already have about 4,500 Wausau neighbors that are using Nextdoor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent. And if we could get just an update, I guess, in about 10 of 12 before we renew, just to see what the use metrics are, just so we can take a look and determine that the benefit is there before we renew it. That would be great. Okay. All right, sounds great. Do we have Mr. Peckham, come on up and. Okay, and then we'll recognize Sarah right after Pat.
Thank you. Also, the Sustainability, Energy, and Environment Committee did review this and is in favor of it. There was some discussion about whether there was return on investment, if we were going to save $8,000 in tipping fees because we were properly recycling more tonnage, but that's very difficult to compute, and I think the kind of the end thinking on the committee's part was that this is a really valuable service that the citizens will appreciate. The cost, I thought, was going to come in higher than it has. It's highly customized to us, and it's something that's just getting off the ground, and if she gets 40 communities, maybe she could knock the price down a little bit, but it's just getting going. I think it's quite reasonable. It's a service that I think the community is going to find valuable, and glad to see there's favorable thinking on it. Thank you.
Sure, we'll recognize Sarah Watson. Go ahead, Sarah.
I forgot to put my hand down.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then with a motion and a second on the floor, I think we're ready to vote then. We'll roll call vote. Martins?
Aye.
Watson? Herbst?
Aye.
Ryan? She says aye as well, and I'll vote aye. So that passes unanimously. All right. I believe the motion was Sarah. Was the motion Sarah and the second was Mike? I thought we had. Oh, okay.
I thought it was Deb.
Was it? Deb, did you make the motion to approve? Okay, let's.
I think I did, but
We can backtrack. Let's accept, just to make sure that we're on the right side of everything here. Do we have a motion to approve the enrollment?
I would.
Motion by Watson, is there a second? Second by Ryan? Now we'll vote. Martins? Ryan? Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? I'll vote aye as well. So now it passes unanimously. Sorry. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action regarding a mid-year budget modification. We'll have Mary Ann walk us through that.
Yep, so built into our municipal code is a process whereby in October each year, using data that the departments have put together when they're preparing their budget, because they do an estimate of what their expenses will be by year end. And we are required to do a budget modification, basically to balance any budgets that are expected to be overdrawn by the end of the year. And the goal or the object included within the municipal code is that we're not supposed to take money, let's say, from fund balance. It's supposed to be a self-balancing adjustment so that you're living with the funds that were previously budgeted. So in this, I tried to give a brief explanation of what we encountered. So for example, the first two line items is, if you recall, council approved a tax settlement with US Bank earlier on this year, and we will be able to charge the school, the county, and the technical college a portion of that back. So of the $47,893 we paid to US Bank, $30,355 will be allocated to those other taxing jurisdictions. So the net amount is what we're seeking funding for. I think at one of the budget meetings, Ann Jacobson, our city attorney, presented that she was anticipating to be over in legal expenses due to the fact that we had some final legal expenses in one of our tax increment districts whose expenditure period ended, so there was no way to charge those costs to the district, and she had not anticipated that in the budget. So that is the increase for legal expenses. Public access, again, they rely on their revenues that they receive, as well as some franchise fees from us, and so their budget projections showed that they'd be slightly short, and some of that is due to not getting all of the revenues that they had anticipated because of lack of some of the
Events.
Yes.
Okay.
Recycling fund, again, anticipating some excess because of leaf pickup and the more expanded services that we're offering, where we're going through the neighborhoods more than one time. And then we are proposing to fund those overages with savings in the Parks Department seasonal staff.
Okay, all right. Committee members, any questions for Mary Ann on that budget balance adjustment?
I was going to mention too, at the last meeting, Tracy had mentioned that she thought she was over in motor pool. And I did go back and check that, and it was actually a computation problem in her charges, so she was being charged the wrong amount. So once we corrected that allocation, she was
okay.
within budget, yes.
Okay, good to know. Okay, committee members, any questions for Mary Ann on the mid-year budget modification? If not, is there a motion to approve that modification? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Herbst? Aye. Watson?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Ryan? She says aye, and I will vote aye as well, so that passes unanimously. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action regarding a budget modification to fund the strategic plan. And with that item, we have the mayor.
Hi, I'm here. So you'll remember that back in May, I talked to the council about strategic planning, and everyone seemed pretty on board at that point. Obviously, we've still been going through a lot as a community since then, but I think we're finally ready to put out an RFP on this, but we'll need to fund it at some point here. So I asked around to figure out how much this could cost, and this would get us enough to do the strategic planning, all of the kind of community engagement portions, and then some of that follow-up with the deliverables and, presentations to our community, so.
Excellent. And it looks like we have some revenue we can shift from building permits to cover it for this year. Committee members, any questions on this item? If not, is there a motion to approve the transfer of funds to fund the strategic plan. Motion by Martins, is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
So would the RFP, go out this year and then it would be, like, what would be the timeline, I guess?
I don't know what's normal for RFPs around here, but my goal would be to get it done as quickly as possible and maybe have people give some of their suggestions back at the beginning of the year, 2021.
Because that was sort of, when we had the discussion about the communications department through the budget workshops, right? We were sort of hoping to have something
Yeah.
Early 2021.
Yeah, so this process would be able to start now and kind of get us to where we need to be in order to make that decision, kind of pull the trigger on that maybe.
So then we'd fund it now and then probably look to have some early results the first quarter, you think, of 2021?
I'm looking at Mary Ann, she knows how these things work in the city a little bit.
I mean, there'll be a series of workshops and public engagement sessions and whatever also, but.
I would think so. Or, first quarter, maybe early second quarter, you would have, some definition of where you were going, I would think.
And I think this is an iterative process, like this will be our first go at it, but we definitely want to make sure we're being responsive and agile when we're talking about this. We don't want to be stuck to things that aren't working.
True.
So,
True. Yep, and I think that's something as a council that we agreed early on that we kind of wanted to look towards, just because we have done volumes of planning in the urban development realm, but from a strategic visioning standpoint, we've tried before, but we've not ever gotten across the finish line with a full-scale strategic plan, that we can keep referring back to like we do our comprehensive plan. So I think to tie that together certainly makes sense.
and I think you'll see some of those other plans that you've already done will be pulled into this as resources because we don't want to lose sight of what we've already decided our priorities.
Sure. Well, and it's good to tie that together as well. So, all right, do we have then a motion to approve the expense? Deb, go ahead.
In my opinion, I think we could do this without hiring a consultant or, potentially just hiring one of the retired county administrators that still live in the area, so.
It seems that we need a little more professional help than, I don't know, when we tried it, the first time we tried it in 2012, we did it through the Government Finance Officers Association, and they had a great shell of a plan, but there were so many subgroups, and that had a large component of, citizen engagement, but with the number of subgroups and the number of citizens, it was really difficult to be expeditious in scheduling all those meetings and all those people to get to a final end. And, I used to also too think, well, why can't we do this in-house? Don't we just have the skill set? And then after a few efforts, similar efforts, the people that do this for a living have a way different methodology as far as from start to finish and how to get you from start to finish. So, I think that when we did it with the GFOA in 2012, we had the skeleton of their plan and we had some insight, as far as what direction we wanted to go. But it's easy to not be able to get it finished unless you have a structured time period and somebody that is like shepherding, which is the consultant's job, to shepherd that process through and make sure that the deliverables get out at the end. And I think that's where we just kind of waned before and we didn't get that finished product.
I'll also say that kind of in preparation for thinking about what we needed for the strategic plan, I did talk to former County Administrator Brad Carger, and I brought in former County Board Member Ken Day, who both worked a lot on the process for Marathon County, and they kind of went through this process of what we needed to do. They think that having an RFP out there would be the right move. I'll certainly talk to Mr. Carger about if that's something he wants to respond to, we would certainly take it seriously. I do know that he is living a lot of the time in Florida these days now that he's retired with his 2 dogs and his wife, but he certainly knows the community well and would be an amazing asset for this.
Sure. Well, and sometimes people try to retire and then we don't let them, so.
Yep, that is John Robinson and Brad Carger in my life, so good luck, guys.
Okay, so with that, Sarah, go ahead.
And I guess like this is a big undertaking, and if you want to do it, have it done right. I mean, having somebody who specializes in that is probably a good idea. Plus, I mean, our current staff is already stretched pretty thin. And is the 50,000? That's sort of a guesstimate because we don't even have proposals yet. So I mean, it's up to 50,000.
Right.
Yeah, I asked around to a couple of organizations that I know did similar planning, and I said, you know, would this get us what we wanted? They said, yeah, you'll probably get what you need. Hit or miss. It probably won't be more, but I wanted to make sure we allocated enough for some of the community meetings. I want them to be facilitated properly, and also the follow up with that plan that we can each bring to every meeting and be like, is this getting us where we need to go? Talking about policies. So
That's just it. And I think the important steps at the end are the implementation roadmap. And that's sometimes where you can make a plan, but if you don't have any appropriate action steps that you can use to check your implementation, it's easy to set the plan aside and then life happens and you kind of forget. So I think hopefully that would keep us all on track as well. With that, do we have a motion to shift? Oh, we do have the motion. Okay. All right. With that, then we're ready to vote. Herbst? Aye. Watson?
Aye.
Ryan? Okay, Ryan voted no. Martins?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. That item then will pass 4-1. Let me bring the agenda back up. Here we go. And then item number 8 is discussion and possible action on Offerman to offer to settle a claim filed with Zagster Incorporated. You've got some materials in your packets outlining our relationship with Zagster for bikes along the riverfront, bike share, which was fairly new when Zagster, essentially collapsed. And we've got a settlement offer from them, way smaller than what our claim was, obviously, but it appears almost no assets to settle with. We do have the city attorney available on WebEx. Does anyone have questions for her on this item? Or Ann, do you have anything that you wanted to walk us through quick?
Well, I was just going to say I feel at a loss to be able to really make a good recommendation because I have no way of really verifying that what this Mike Hart of Schneider Downs tells me is true. But it appears to be mired in a mess, which will take years to straighten out, I'm guessing. And we did pay the first half, the $18,000, so that's what we filed our claim for, and they're suggesting to offer it for 5% of that, or $900. And he called again this morning, actually. He's called me 3 times since October 9th, anxious to know our answer. So I thought he'd have to wait till after tonight and council addresses it. So I just don't know, and I can't really verify if the people that bought the trusts, or he says they bought $26 million of assets of Zagster, but it's nothing that can be liquidated.
Okay.
All of their assets. So, and they have 50 million in claims, and I'm sure that they're in bankruptcy. So I'm wondering if it might not be a good idea to just take what we can get now, even though it's a paltry amount compared to what we paid in taxpayer dollars.
The last time I was down there, we're still in possession of the bikes, aren't we? I mean, they were still sitting out
We
down
are.
there. Yeah,
We are.
so-
I heard recently Jamie, at one of our development team meetings, I think Jamie indicated, in fact, just this past Thursday, that they've got them secured and in storage now.
Okay. We'll recognize Michael and then Sarah. Go ahead, Mike.
And I think you just answered the first half of the question. So we've got the bikes still,
Yeah.
and
We do, but they're being held in trust, basically. We wanted to maintain some leverage, so when they threatened to come and pick them up, we asked them not to do that. If we could store them here, with the understanding that we may purchase them from somebody else who has now actually has ownership of them. And I think we're going to pay about...
I can jump in real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
CSC Leasing, I believe Zagster was leasing those bikes from CSC Leasing, and so we've been in conversation with CSC Leasing to purchase the bikes.
okay. But did the bikes even have value to us? Because wasn't the whole thing about Zagster is it was an app to unlock the bike, or was it some other kind of mechanism in order for the bike share to work?
I can comment on that quick too.
Go ahead,
Since Zagster's collapse, there have been several companies that do both the bike share companies that do programs similar to Zagster, where they have basically everything all included in a price, and there are companies that do simply the app, I guess the app to run the bike share if you own your own bikes or whatever. So I guess that's what we're looking into as an option to replace the Zagster bike share is doing one of those options where the app, where we'd subscribe to the app or something, or subscribe to a program and bring our own bikes to it.
Okay, so the bikes would be compatible with other types of apps then potentially. How many of these?
Yeah, it's a universal like Bluetooth interface for the locks that are on the bikes.
Okay, how many of these bikes do we have?
There were, yeah, I guess we don't own any of them now. I think there are 9 that are out there.
9, okay, well, yeah, 9 bikes that are in storage. Okay, and so we're trying to recover 18,000 that we paid in as part of the program for the bike share program. But we've got these bikes in trust that are actually owned by a leasing company, so I would assume if they're owned by a leasing company, then Zagster has no claim on the bikes. Would that be correct? Or what? Or that they're just some kind of object in limbo at this point?
Here's I guess a compelling question. When, even if we negotiate with the CSC leasing and the bikes do have some, secondary use for us under a different app, what happens with this situation with Zagster and the buyout if we opt not to settle? I mean, obviously, we've got an $18,000 claim out there. They're offering to settle for $900. Well, that's no great loss if we choose not to. So does our claim just remain out there as part of this, spider web of untangling Zagster for the new owner, Ann?
Yes, it will remain out there, and it would be dealt with, I'm imagining, in the bankruptcy court if that's brought up in the proper way through the bankruptcy proceeding. Yeah, it would just remain out there.
Well, that's just me, but I feel like that's no great loss for us to just wait and see what.
I got a feeling if the bikes are owned by a leasing company, that the only thing of value in Zagster is the intellectual property of the app itself, and that could be worth nothing.
Right. Let's recognize Sarah Watson. She's got her hand up.
I guess my question is, so how much, keeping it out there and not accepting this claim, how much would that cost us in the long run? Is there going to be a lot of time in your office and to maintain it?
No, I don't think so at all. It's taken very little time to this stage. I just felt it wasn't our decision to make. We needed to bring it to finance and council, so it's really just been the phone call with this gentleman and preparing the memo for the meeting. If you have more questions, though, and you want to table it or deny it tonight, I can certainly get back to him. He asked if we had any questions, if you want to know any more about, a potential bankruptcy or whatever. But you're right, if we take the $900, we're releasing all of our claims, and if we don't, I don't know, will 50% of the claimants settle, and that'll then give them enough money to potentially settle the remainder of the claims at full dollar value? I have no idea what the possibility of that is happening.
Worst case scenario, we're out $18,000, right? But we've got the bikes. The only difference there is that we'd be out 18,000 less than 900 we settled for, right? That's not
Right.
That's not much of a recovery versus
5%.
Well, and then my question too is how much are the discussions for the bikes? I know there's 9 bikes, but
Well, Brad can correct me, but I thought the last I had heard, they were talking about us being able to purchase the bikes for about $300 a piece from CLC. Is that correct, Brad?
I think it was, I'm remembering around 220 or 230 or something like that. So it's somewhere around there. It would offset about 3 bikes.
yeah, so it's not even worth, it's not even going to buy the bikes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
That was my question.
Alder Peckham.
I was just wondering whose money it was in the first place. My understanding was that it was a foundation sponsored these things the first year. or?
Yes, it was a donation that was routed through the Community Foundation and a grant from the Community Foundation.
Okay. Any additional questions? Committee members, what are your thoughts on accepting or denying settlement? Do you feel like we're equipped to make this decision tonight? I am, I guess, how do the rest of you feel?
I guess right now I'm in the position of denying the settlement and to see where it goes. If we've got the bikes in storage, maybe we could just, if there's potential use for those, or maybe we'll end up with the bikes, who knows, with the,
Right.
If this whole bankruptcy kind of unravels, so.
Right, and their urgency to settle is a little bit, it makes you wonder.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely.
for such a small amount, so, that said, if you're leaning towards denial, then we would make a motion to approve in the affirmative, and everyone would vote no, if that's the way we're leaning.
Just ask a question about.
Go ahead.
What Alder Peckham mentioned about the funding source, so it didn't come, it wasn't city funds, it was grants and donations from a different fund?
Community Foundation,
Community
Yes.
Foundation?
yes.
But it would go back, the $900 would go back into the city's budget, or would it go back to that community foundation?
The $900 recovery.
Well, I guess we would have to communicate with our donor and see how they wanted to handle that. If we were going to pursue purchasing the bikes, I would think that they would be amenable to us using some of those proceeds for that. But I haven't participated in any conversations, but we definitely would want to reach out to them and, receive
And get
their
clearance
approval.
for it? Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Deb, your hand is up, go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same vein of what the Community Foundation has supported, the city of Wasa on projects all along the riverfront and from other funds for decades. So I think it's good to maybe table for now and get back to the Community Foundation and see what they would like to do. But it sounds like this other party that was leasing the bikes, if it's going to go through bankruptcy, it's not something that the city actually owns, I would think. So, so I would think getting involved with the Community Foundation and finding what they'd like to do and see if, because they have supported the city quite often in the past over the years.
Well, and ultimately, if we would leave our claim active and opt not to settle, obviously, like Ann said, if there's a chance that they would settle with some and then generate enough funds to settle with the others, that might bring us a greater return than settling right now for 900 flat.
I guess I did not realize the source of the payment on the contract was from grants and donations, so that I would agree with what you want to do.
With leaving it out there to see what happens?
I think so, or at least consulting with the Community Foundation, since I wasn't aware that was the source of the funding used to pay the contract.
Okay. If we were to deny the settlement at this point, they always could re-propose settlement down the line.
Sure, they could do that.
So then we wouldn't leave it hanging. For now, we'd have a decisive answer for them, and then, if they wanted to come forward with some other settlement offer, they can certainly make that overture.
That's correct.
Okay. Then let's take some definitive action tonight then, as a committee, and then if there's subsequent action to be taken, either an alternative settlement offer, or if something materializes that, we have a secondary use for the bikes and can get them out from under the Zagster mess, we certainly could consider that separately. Do we have a motion, and we'll have to make the motion in the affirmative, so is there a motion to accept the settlement?
I would move to accept the settlement.
There's a motion by Watson, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Martins, and then just to clarify, if our will is to deny the settlement, we would vote no. We'll roll call vote. Martins?
No.
Ryan? Ryan votes no. Watson?
No.
Herbst? And I'll vote no as well. So that item fails 0 to 5. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action on the bargaining agreement between the City of Wasa and the Wasa Firefighter Association for January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. This is our renewal contract with our firefighters union. It looks like it comes from the HR committee with a recommendation to approve after collective bargaining negotiations have been done. We do have the HR director on WebEx if anyone has questions for her about the contract or the process. If not, is there a motion to approve the contract? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the contract. Herbst? Aye. Martins?
Aye.
Ryan? Ryan votes aye. Watson?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Item number 10 is discussion and possible action on reclassification of the senior property appraiser to deputy assessor. You've got some supportive documents from the HR committee in your packets on that, as well as the information that was submitted by the assessor. This one also comes from the HR committee with a recommendation to approve. Do we have any questions for the HR director on this one or for the city assessor? Rick is with us in the room if anyone has questions. If not, is there a motion to approve the reclassification? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and vote. Ryan? Ryan votes aye. Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? Martins?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Item number 11 is discussion and possible action on sole source purchase of automatic CPR devices from Zahl Medical Group. And you've got some information in your packets on this item. This particular item, we had originally considered in CIP. The fire department, though, was able to get a grant for them, which leaves us a balance of only like $883. So that is about as good as it gets. They do need us to approve the sole source purchase, though, so they can complete the purchase through Zahl, and then we would fund our $883. Is there a motion then to approve? We do have Deputy Chief Bartek with us if anyone has questions for him, but they had decent documentation in our packets as well. Okay. And was that a motion to approve, Sarah? Oh. Okay, motion to approve by Watson. Is there a second? Second by Ryan. We'll go ahead and vote. Martins? Aye. Ryan? She votes aye. Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? Aye. I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Item number 12 is discussion and possible action on a sole source purchase request for replacement of fitness equipment at Fire Station number 3 from Johnson Fitness Equipment. You've got some materials in your packets on this one. The type of equipment that they would be seeking, and the reason they requested it sole source is because the equipment is under a maintenance contract, and it's the same type of equipment that's been installed at the new firehouse number 2. So that maintenance, preventive maintenance could be scheduled together because the equipment would come from the same source and be of the same composition. We do, though, have Deputy Fire Chief with us if you have questions for him on that item. Anyone have questions for him? If not, is there a motion to approve the fitness equipment? Motion by Martins, is there a second? Second by Herbst. We'll go ahead and vote. Watson?
Aye.
Ryan? Ryan votes aye. Martins? Aye. Herbst? Aye. I'll vote aye as well, and that passes unanimously. And the last item on our agenda is the 2021 budget update.
Not a lot to share. The budget was published on October 25th in the Wasa Daily Herald as required by law. We did receive notification of our final assessed valuation. I had done an estimate, and my estimate was slightly under, about $7 million under the final number from the state of Wisconsin. If you recall, we were waiting for our manufacturing numbers. So that dropped the assessed tax rate down a couple more pennies. So we are now at 9.70 tax rate. So as far as other things that we're still waiting for, our health insurance enrollment ends on Thursday. And so we will be updating those enrollment numbers. And then just the tax from other taxing jurisdictions are the final two pieces of the puzzle.
Excellent. But good news for taxpayers out there, we are actually this year passing along a sizable mill rate decrease to Wasa residents as a result of our 2021 budget workshops, and still getting work done and getting our CIP fulfilled, and able to do that largely because we finally are realizing paid taxes on a large amount of economic growth that's taken place over time. So with that, that's the last item on our budget. On our agenda for tonight, I'll entertain a motion to, oh, Deb, go ahead, one more comment?
Yes, I just wanted to let everybody know, I got a call from Dave Dickinson this afternoon, and that I was hoping the budget information about covering the other commission meetings, which has not been part of what's been done the last few years. It was just regular steering committees were covered with the public access video. So they're saying roughly these additional meetings would be about $16,620. So I do think that having all the different city meetings being videotaped and being transparent to our residents is important. But you know, maybe as part of that videographer and looking at it in more detail, as well as I guess I can see where handling public access and communications, in my opinion, seems to be something that should be under the mayor's department overall. But maybe we'll be discussing this more in the next few months.
I do have a note to myself. Thank you, Deb, for reminding. So when we give the final health insurance numbers, I will have that as a final discussion point for finance.
Okay,
prior to
and then we
budget
could
adoption.
insert that, council could opt to insert that into the budget when it ratifies the budget on November 24th. So we'll have a public hearing on the budget November 10th, and then at our following meeting is when we'd be asked to approve the budget. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Motion by Martins, second by Ryan. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No one's ever opposed. So we'll stand adjourned, and then council will start in this chamber in about 6 minutes. Thank you, everyone.